Hello and welcome to With Winning in Mind. I'm your host, Troy Basham, along with Lanny, and we are here with Kyle McCormack, one of the top precision rifle shooters in the country. We're going to talk about shooting, we're talking about winning, we're talking about life. So, how you doing, Kyle?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Well, I'm doing better than him.
Why?
Huh? What, aren't I supposed to do better?
Oh, well, I guess you are.
I'm the after version, so he's the before version.
You're 23 years better than me, but I'm 23 years wiser than you.
Oh, so you're doing better because you're wiser.
Well, that could. It doesn't feel like it.
No, I'm doing pretty good. You doing good?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about how you found out about Lanny, and you've been working with him, I guess, for a while, and been winning and that kind of stuff. And a little bit of your background. I don't think most people understand precision rifle shooting as you shoot it. You know, we come from a different precision rifle altogether. So,
Yeah, so our precision rifle is it's basically like a match where there's, let's say on a 2-day national match, there's 20 different stages going on. Sometimes they'll do 10 one day, 10 the next day, depending on how they're trying to time the match. And basically there's a match director. He's trying to basically build different scenarios to test every part of your skills, how you read wind, how you can pan across different targets, how fast and you can be, how efficient you can be, how you manage time, how you manage equipment. And basically they just build at these different venues. There's 40 of them across the country. And they basically the precision rifle, they'll take your top 3 scores. That'll count for 60% of your score. They take about 150, 200 guys at the end of the year. And they'll do a shoot off for the finale, and that's 40% of your score. And that's actually next week. So that's kind of what I'm gearing up for right now. And that's kind of a precision rifle series in a nutshell. But
So what distances are you shooting, and explain that?
So like, it just depends on what the venue and the match director. I mean, I would say that the closest targets I've seen this year are probably around 300 yards. I think I've shot probably out to 12 or 1300. So let's just say like, a scenario for one of the stages is like, you go up and there's like, some kind of prop, like a barricade or a guardrail or a pole or a car or something. And then the match director will say, you're going to shoot off to the left at these 2 targets. You shoot two shots per target, and then you're going to pan off to this other direction. And then you're going to shoot 600, 895 and 1200. And you have like, say 90 seconds to 2 minutes to finish the course of fire. An impact counts for, like, if you just hit the plate whatsoever, it's an impact. If you miss, then it's just not an impact. And then at the end of the match, whoever has the most of those impacts is who wins the match.
Got it. So you're shooting full bore rifles primarily, or you have a rimfire section too. Those guys that want to shoot rimfire, you have that course of fire as well.
Yeah, there's a rimfire series. There's kind of a couple of sub series within the series. So there's a rimfire series, and there's the bolt series. And there's different categories. There's a category for ladies, a gas gun, junior, tactical division, production. Like basically what that is like a lower cost rifle. Those guys are kind of shooting together. And then like the tactical division, the guys are shooting, 308s and 223s against each other. And then there's just the pro open bolt, and those guys are just running whatever they think is going to get them the most points in the match. Like there's not any restrictions besides you can't be over like 3,200 feet a second, I believe. And other than that, if you think it's going to help you, then just put it on your gun and go.
You're using computerized scopes, right? Or they seem like they're computerized. They're pretty.
Well, we can use a rangefinder, and then we have these little ballistic solvers, which is going to read your, basically your density altitude, and you type in and program all your ballistics into it. And then, you're just trying, it just kind of helps you figure out what you're going to dial, for your wind and what you're going to dial for your elevation. So just to give you the best chances on, basically it just tells you what your rifle should do on average, and you can tune it up really good to where it's, you're putting them on, exactly where you know what I mean? These guys have this data figured out.
So how did you get started in this?
I was going to go on a hunting trip in 2018, on an elk hunting trip. And, where I was going, one of the guys I was going with, he's like, man, you're going to have to learn how to shoot like 300, 400, 500 yards. And so I took a 308 out and tried to kind of figure out long range. And I just didn't really figure it out. And it really bothered me. I didn't really, have, like mentors or anybody to help. And so, I didn't even know where to start asking. So I just kind of tried to figure it out on my own. And I ended up shooting my elk at like 100 yards. And so it didn't even matter. But because I come from a history of bow hunting a lot. And so I never really thought you really needed to shoot a rifle more than, 100 yards or 200 yards. And so then later on during right around COVID time frame, I just was kind of laying there one night and I was like, man, it's really bothering me that I never figured that out. And so I bought a production rifle in 2019. And I was trying to figure it out and, asking anyone I knew a lot of questions, and probably to the point of being pretty annoying. And then I shot a match in early 2020 in the winter, and it was a disaster. I think I only hit 50% of the targets. But I saw a pro shooter there, and I remember thinking I can't believe that that's even possible with a rifle. And so I went and asked a guy that owns the range, how to get started. He said, hey, you need an impact and a foundation, which is just a stock and an action, and everything else will just fall together from there. So I went and sold my rifle, built one, and then took it back, and then shot even worse the next match. It's like a single day match, a small one. And I did even worse. And then, so then I did a class with him and shot a 2-day match, and I got 30th. Went on the next year. We had a child that year. And so I just didn't really get a chance to really put my season together, but I noticed I kept on having mental mistakes. And then Justin, the guy that owns the range, or maybe another shooter, or somebody had said that they read a book from Lanny, and this guy, I kind of didn't really feel like he was better than me at shooting, but he was staying with me, even though he didn't have the talent that I felt that I had versus him. And I was like, man, this guy is hanging with me. There's something else going on here. And so I talked to him, and he was like, well, I'm reading this book, this mental management book. So I was thinking, man, if I had that element, I could be doing better. So anyway, so I bought the book. I think he might've even given me the book. And I read it, and then I started to compete that well, and instantly. I mean, the first match I went to, I was kind of I was like in 50th, and then 30th, and then 28th, and I read the book, and then I got third, and I only got the top two guys only beat me by one shot. They tied for the win, and I was a faster tiebreaker than they were. So I actually, one more impact, and I would have beat both of those guys, and I would have won my first match. My first 2-day national match, which is it's tough to do. And both of those guys are world champions. I mean, there's amazing shooters. Austin Bushman, Austin Orgain, they're just, as good as they get. And I was thinking, man, there's something to this mental game. Like nobody else is really, I think a lot of the guys have fallen into figuring out a lot of the mental stuff on their own, but what works for them. But the winning in mind stuff took me instantly from, a top third shooter mid-pack shooter to, in the top, at matches instantly. And so I was like, man, there's something to this. So I was like, man, I got to meet this Lanny. And I remember just, I think it was sometime in 2021. I drove, called Lanny and drove down and met him at his office. And I was like, man, okay, there's something to this whole mental thing. Tell me everything you know. And so, been working with him ever since. And my scores and consistency has only gotten better. Getting my mind wrapped around the mental game and the rifle sport.
So what's the biggest thing that he's taught you that you've taken so far that's helped you?
I mean, man, I talked to Lanny once a month for years now. And that's hard to put an answer on. I mean, I would say, obviously the process, right? I mean, the biggest, boldest one is the process and kind of understanding how to compete, like how to be a good competitor, how to be a good competitor when you win, how you lose, how to get the most out of yourself, whether you're in your subconscious or you're not in your subconscious, how to build your self-image, whether you're shooting or things at home, internal, external stressors that can, I have a pretty long list of things that that Lanny's helped me with. That is, I don't think you can isolate it even just down to the sport. It's like I really feel that it made me a better person in a whole lot of ways. But obviously the best from a competitor standpoint is going to be, if I had to answer just that, I would say it would be, developing a process to either be in your subconscious or as close to your subconscious as you possibly can with your process to repeat a desired performance. That would be number one.
Now, have you shot precision rifle like he does or not?
Well, one time I never competed in this. I mean, they didn't have this when I was shooting. I would have loved to have done it. As a matter of fact, this would have been a sport that I could have done even after my vision problem went away, because they used scopes, and so that was my problem. I couldn't tell the difference between a 10 and a 9 through iron sights, and my vision was not correctable. It was unstable, and I think that with scopes, I probably could have done it. And there's a lot of things about that sport, precision rifle series, that's really intrigued me, because you're first of all, you're shooting full bores, and you're shooting long distance, and
for those people that aren't familiar with rifles, what is the difference between a full bore and a small bore? The terminology for most people watching that probably knows, but for those who don't.
Well, basically, you got air rifles which don't move at all. You pull the trigger on an air rifle and nothing happens. It's designed not to recoil, and so
because the rifle's using air to project
that's right, and
projectile.
And they've done some engineering to make. Because when air rifle shooting first came out, there was recoil in it, and they were not that accurate, and now they're extremely accurate, and they that's air rifle. Then small bore is basically 22 long rifle. That's the distance that I won the gold medal in the Olympics in. It's at 50 meters, and you could shoot different distances. Sometimes American target competitions, we shot 100 yards in some outdoor prone events. That's called small bore, and it's basically 22 caliber. And then, but again, there's not much kick, not much recoil. And you can tell a lot about what's happening by recoil. And even in small bore, you can tell something about your position and by what happens to the rifle when it recoils. But in full bore shooting, like I shot in the Olympics at 300 meters. I won the world championships in 300 meters, and 300 meters you're using a higher caliber rifles. We shot 308s, 30-06s, and so forth, and so you need a higher caliber to be able to reach out to 1,000 yards or 1,200 meters or whatever distances that precision rifle series uses, and that's what we just basically call full bore.
It goes bang.
It goes bang, and there's more recoil, and there's more things that you can do with the load. You can change the calibers. You can change all kinds of things to make it more accurate, or you can't really do anything. But it's small bore. I mean, we had to use factory ammunition. You couldn't change caliber, and I would have loved to have tried a load without a rimfire primer. that was the thing that cost me more trouble than just because the full bores were much more accurate, or at least if you had a load that worked, it normally worked all the time, and rimfire sometimes you'd get a lot that shot really well for a while.
Yeah, but you're going to pay a little more for that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That accuracy and.
Well, it's not an inexpensive sport. Even the sport that we did is probably the second most expensive sport in the Olympics to train for, and equestrian is the most expensive sport to train for, and so.
Yeah, just how expensive does the precision rifles get in your sport?
I mean, I would say most of the guys that just the rifle itself, I would say is probably between 4,000 and 5,000. Just the rifle setup, and then a lot of guys are going to run. The open shooters are going to run glass that's somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000. Sometimes 6,000. I guess there's a couple that are pretty expensive, and then it's probably. Realistically, it's probably $1 a shot if you reload. I would think that most of the top shooters are probably shooting somewhere between 4,000 and 8,000 rounds a year. So, I mean, of course, these guys are pulling their barrels at 2,000 rounds. That's another, depending on if you're sponsored or not. That's a $600 to $800, $1,000 for the barrels, depending on how you do it. But I mean, so let's just say 4 of those. I mean, those bullets. I mean, it's probably, gosh, it's what, 10 grand. I mean, on top of your gun. So it can stack up pretty quick, depending on how serious you get. A lot of guys aren't that serious, but most of the guys that are on the top are that serious.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of money.
Yeah, it's in the area of golf and Olympic shotgun and all that kind of stuff. Shotgun shooters tend to burn up a ton of ammunition, so that takes you have to buy ammo and targets and. But anytime you go to tournaments, how many tournaments do you probably would you consider would be an average year for you in terms of tournaments?
I would say 10 to 12. I could do more. I have noticed if I do like 2 matches a month, then it seems to hurt my performance in either preparation or just something that just seems too rushed. I think if I could put a perfect number on it, I would just do 1 a month, and like January through, October. And I would just make, completely sure that that I was absolutely 100% ready. There's a lot of guys that they'll run, man, there's 40 of these matches a year, and there's some guys that shoot 20 plus matches, which means I mean, they're just living for it. It's like they're practicing and getting guns ready when they're not at matches, and they're just going match over match over match over match. They take your top 3 scorers, and these guys are just, they just love the matches. They go to a lot. I don't know what they do for a living, but something pretty passive and, something that's paying pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say for me, if I could do one a month, I think, to get done with the match and then unpack it, figure out what you need to do. And then, maybe spend a week trying to figure out what, an equipment or some kind of thing that you can do better, maybe do some kind of experimenting and then kind of refine it the next week, and then fine tune all of your equipment and everything. And, now the following week, you're back at another match testing and I think if you just keep on refining that process, I found that that's kind of when I'm performing at my best. Like the first half of this year, I think I shot like 7 or 8 matches. And I went like every 2 weeks. And then I switched over to where I did one a month. Like I did, I did 2. I'm sorry. I took 2 in August, and I did September. I spaced them like 3 weeks apart. And even going from 2 weeks apart to 3 weeks apart, all of my top finishes this year came from the 3 week apart matches versus the 2 week apart matches. I think it's just too close together to really make sure that you're ready for it. And I think you kind of just get lazy and round corners and things whenever you're just going to too many. You're just like, oh, that's good enough. That's good enough. And you're just not ready.
Yeah, anytime you have to go to a competition, it doesn't matter what sport you're in, you're burning up hotel, travel, food, all that. If you're having to travel a long distance. But is there an international element to Precision Rifle Series?
Yeah, there is. Thankfully, I mean, it's pretty cool to see. Ken Wheeler I think he's that's the guy that director of the PRS. I think he's really promoting the international stuff. Like I have seen a ton of international shooters in the United States. Like they did the world championships, and they get 6 shooters that are in the top for every country that does this, and they all shot here this year. But the last year it was in Europe, and I think this year it was supposed to be in South Africa. But yeah, there's a lot of international shooting going on, and the sport's really starting to take off kind of globally, which is really neat to see. But, the other countries, they were so far behind like 2 years ago. I mean, America just swept the field. Like it wasn't even close. And then, that was the first world championship, which was 2 years ago. And then they do it every 2 years. This year, I mean, there was so many good international shooters that I think we only got the first top 3 places in the open class. And I mean, there's just a lot of talent and skill and training. And a lot of the guys are traveling all the way to the United States to just train and shoot American matches, and then take the data and taking the, what they're learning and the information back, and they're building their courses of fire better and different to the way that we're doing it, I guess. And then now they're improving a ton. And so I think the whole sport's evolving pretty fast, and I think it's growing really, really fast. I know that Ken Wheeler, he started making it to where the international shooters could come over here, or we could go internationally, and all of the scores would count into the same series to try to promote, traveling internationally, which I thought was really neat to expand the sport.
Sounds good.
That's pretty neat. So every they do a world championships every other year?
Every other year, yeah. And then, they change the qualifications here. I don't know how they do the qualification. I don't know if it's like, I really don't really understand how they're doing the qualifications in other countries, but I know here it's changed every time. So I think Americans are trying to like refine how to pick, because it really let's just say a guy has an amazing day or an amazing year or amazing 4 matches in a row, but maybe he's not very, consistent at other times. Like basically we're trying to create a metric that's just going to identify the most consistent top shooters, and 6 of them. And so they're trying to, there's so many variables between match venues and match directors that are building the matches that it's sort of like they're trying to determine what is the metric to use to get the most consistent best team we can, and it's a very tough formula to figure out. I know that there's been a ton of discussion on how to do it. I don't have the right answer, but if I make it, I make it. If I don't, I don't. But
well, good luck finding something that sticks. They change the Olympic qualification every time to pick a team. So,
back when I was shooting, all of the competitions from the first team I made in 1970 World Championships until the last team I shot, it was stable in the sense that we had a Olympic course of fire for 3 days, and they added those scores together. The top guys went to the World Championships, represented the United States, so everybody knew what you had. But in 1976, the law changed in America. The government got involved, and they actually regulated a little bit the Olympic movement. And you had and they introduced a committee that ran the thing. And anytime you have a committee, everybody's going to want. I know Troy's on the committee, so I'm not going to say anything bad about it. But anytime you're on a committee, the likelihood that they're going to want to change something. Well, I'm on this committee, so I want to. Maybe we can come up with a better idea. So,
it's never ending.
Yeah, never ending. Yeah,
it's not dull though. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, so I'm sure that that process of picking a team, it'll always change.
Yeah, and that I think I don't know, a year ago or so, I decided that I was going to try to plan my season around that, and really I ended up picking a bunch of matches that I probably wouldn't have gone to normally, and then I had we were building a house, and I had some I shot just factory ammo all year, and I had I still ended up finishing 6th in the season. But I think I would have done a little better if I had loaded ammo myself all year. But I wasn't my schedule wasn't really aligning, and the matches that I wanted to shoot, they weren't really aligning with me getting, better. I think my goal is to try to win the gold bullet which is just the first place in the Precision Rifle Series season. That's kind of been my goal since I started. Is if you ever, it's always been a bullet, right? You just want to get a top 10 bullet, but because the difference between a top 10 bullet and a gold bullet is just a matter of having a really good day on the finale. Obviously if you've done what you need to do during the season, but and I don't. It's almost unrealistic to think that you can make that as a goal, but I think we're always going to try to, be first place, right? So I'm going to start building my seasons more towards trying to accomplish my original goal, and then if it works out to where that road merges with the World Championships, then great. But if not, then I'm not. I don't feel like I'm gonna. I don't really want to chase 2 rabbits. It's just too much. It's too hard to get one of them. I don't want to do 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you spend so much time, energy, and effort.
Yeah.
If they're going to change it, you might as well just stick with what works for you. And the cream does rise to the top typically. So at least in our experience with the Olympics, change of the trials, you still get, 90% of the time, if not 95% of the time, you're getting the top athletes. There's a couple that might, wow, how'd they make the team? But it's not common. It's a rarity.
It's not, and I think that any time, as long as they don't do this, is to say, okay, we're going to have one course of fire, and we're going to take the national team based on one time. That's exactly what the Olympics is. It's one time, and so the temptation is, well, let's select our team the same way. Well, now you open up a big problem with what if a guy's sick and the best shooter in your country has got the flu or something like that. So you want to try to guard yourself from that happening. But if you try to make it too many tryouts, you can't get ready for 20 tournaments a year. So somewhere in the middle is kind of where everybody goes, and it's probably right. But I agree that the cream rises to the top. Everybody that makes it for representing the country in international competition, they deserve that spot, because everybody competed with the same rules, and we all accepted those or had to accept them, and sometimes you have to alter your training, but normally not too much, because the kind of things that it takes to win a national championship is kind of the same things that you need to do to win a world championship.
Yeah,
although
I agree.
Although you may have to consider being away from the country more for a tournament. Like if you have a tournament in Asia or Africa or Europe, it's different time limit to a shooter than if you have a competition that's in the country. So you've got to adjust for the time zone and things like that. So there are considerations for training internationally, no question about it.
You always like to go early, get acclimated to the time zone.
Oh yeah, because most of our big tournaments were outside the United States, because most international rifle shooting is more popular in Europe than it is in the United States. So, but you're in a sport where the United States has more precision rifle series shooters than any other country. You kind of built the program here, and so the world is coming to you, and whereas in Olympic rifle shooting, we had our years where we were dominant in rifle. We still have some great shotgun shooters though that kind of hold up our end in the Olympics. So,
well, our women held every world record until we had the 3P, the air gun, and the team event.
Yeah,
up until this last Olympics, I think the Chinese broke the air gun record, but we still have that. So our women are doing really, really well.
Yeah, thank goodness for the girls.
So how
I know that 224 was a tough one for the guys. I know.
Yeah, we've got some good shooters. We just have more depth in the women right now, which is actually opposite of what it normally has been historically. We have a lot of depth in the men, not so much in the women, but now we're seeing more women excel, and so it's not easy to make the team if you're a woman. How competitive is it in the women in PRS compared to the men? Is it male dominated? Is it about equal? How's that?
The men dominate the sport. There's a couple women that are are really good. And like Kate Estes comes to mind. Laurel Aikenhead, she's great. Peyton Grimes, she's good. There's a lot of there there is some solid shooter, and there's some solid juniors too. Um, uh, and so, I don't know. But I would say for the most part, I would say that men kind of primarily dominate the rifle sport today.
Yep.
Yeah, just wait till the women find out about it, then you're
Yeah,
done. So,
yeah, that's all right. the women like to shoot, though. One of the things that most of the time, if you have a lady and she's never shot before, and you whether it's rifle, pistol, shotgun, whatever it is, and you bring them out to the gun club, they normally like it. So it's great. And
I think that they have. I think that women. I don't know. I mean, I think that they might have a higher sense of like body awareness and sensitivities to things that are different than men do. I don't know. Like my wife and even my daughter. Like she's only 6, and like they're very naturally like it came on very naturally to them. Like they just got really good instantly. And I don't know why. It's the only thing that makes sense to me is like some kind of body awareness or maybe discipline that like I'm not going to squeeze the trigger until it's perfect or something. I don't know. Probably like how they color better than us. It's like they color in the lines better. And so, I don't know. I think that as women do, start shooting the sport more, I do expect to see more names, on the top. Allison Zane, she has been a top shooter a couple of years ago. I mean, she was, one of the top shooters in the AG Cup. I think she made day 3, and she shot with me in the finale last year, which means her season score was basically the same. So she shot either before or after me. I couldn't remember, but so I mean, there's some good ones out there.
yeah, that's why I like international rifle having. I like men and women being separate.
Yeah.
In college they compete together. In NCAA rifle, they compete together. But coaching over the years, the women are just better. I think for international rifle, they're better because one, they're smaller, so you have lower center of gravity, which is an advantage, especially in the sling positions. I think and standing, lower center of gravity, better for you. And I think they mature a little bit faster. So from a younger age, I think they can handle the sport better. They're a little bit more patient, so when the hold's not that good, they're a little bit more patient to develop the positions where guys are just, no, I want to shoot. They're just not as patient. I think it pays off dividends when they get older. They develop good habits earlier on than guys tend to do. And I'm just glad I didn't have to compete against women in the international section after college.
There's really no physical advantage for men over women in a sport of shooting. We see the scores the same in shotgun. The women tend to have the same scores that the guys do. I certainly understand that there are some sports where that's definitely an advantage if that the way that men are have a physical advantage over women, and that's a big topic among the transgender issue and things like that. We're not going to have that issue with shooting that much. I don't think it's an argument that the men and women can compete, and if they want to have a separate category where the women just shoot against the women, that's probably okay for the guys. I got less competition, but some guys don't like that, and some gals don't like that. I mean, I know that when I shot with Margaret Murdoch, she liked to shoot against the men. She wanted to be the best in the world. Everything changed after my Olympics with her, and the women's events came into the Olympics. But I think she kind of missed going shooting against everybody. I know that I missed shooting against everybody. I would have liked to have been able to continue to shoot with the ladies. I would have wanted Margaret Murdoch on my team every time I shot, which I did. But it stopped after the 76 Olympics.
When you're talking about advantage or not advantage, let's circle back. So, in concluding with this topic here, how much of an advantage is the mental game in your sport? Because in the beginning, you were struggling as far as just to get an idea of the long-range shooting and the dynamics of shooting. Once you got that, how much did the elevation of the mental game really help you?
Oh, it's everything. I would say I would say, I don't know, 80. There's a very large percent of the shooters that can get their rifle shooting lights out. They can do great data collection, and their guns are doing everything that they possibly can. And the guys know how to pull the trigger. And like beyond that, everything is equipment management, time management, like you said, like keeping your composure and being patient. But I just can't see it being less than half or 3/4 of your game is just mental in this sport, because they're the match directors. That's really, most of what they can test is how well your mind is put together, right? Like if you're, there's only so many things that, like, let's just say the PRS barricade, it's been a very standard stage basically across every match that they do to do a tiebreaker. And it's like in the past, it's been 4 positions at one target at 400 yards. That's something that nobody has to think about. Like they can just, look at the wind, make a wind call, and do shoot their stage. But like everything else is like, 2 at the left target, 2 at the right target, 1 at the left, 2 at the middle, 1 at the right, and or some kind of stressor or some kind of a big panning change to where like your mind has to be able to function at a very, very high level and under pressure. Right. And it's outside, obviously. So, sometimes you're really cold, sometimes you're hot, you're hungry. Sometimes the matches go for, 10, 12, 14 hours. And, just being able to keep your understand how your body's going to respond to, early morning shooting or wind, or whether rain is hitting you in the face, or your mind in this sport is just, it's everything. Everybody's got their rifle working at a national match. Just about everybody knows how to pull the trigger. I would just say that, I don't even know how to put a number on it, but it's gotta be a really, really high number on percentage for mental game.
So what would you give a new shooter that wanted to come into your sport, and you're the first person that they talk to as far as, I want to be competitive, I want to be a champion? What would be the advice you would give them?
I would say first off, yeah, go get your rifle shooting and go get experience. I think the experience is kind of a key factor. You got to have your rifle shooting well, so that you can duplicate what's happening, so you have something to build on. And the next thing that I would say is, you really need to go get experience, because you really don't know where you're gonna break down. Like you don't know. That's why I meet with Lanny once a month, is because I don't know what I don't know as far as what obstacles I'm gonna run into when I break down. At first it was like, man, I don't know how to lose. As I was losing a match, I didn't know how to handle that, or when you're winning a match, I don't know how to handle that, and so I would say just go get experience, just go get out there, get beat up, understand yourself, understand, because everybody is different. Some people might just be natural and they might just crush it, but at some point you're going to break down. And that's when you'll really know where to focus on getting better. But I would say that, is going to be almost 100% of the time is going to be the mental game that they're going to have to work on. But just going and getting experience and understanding where you need to work.
So get experience and start working on the mental game earlier than later.
I would say earlier. I mean, that was my strategy to it. I went in, I wanted to go get, 4 or 5 matches under my belt to just go get beat up and just go figure out, like, what do I even, with a broad paintbrush, like, where do I even need to start looking? And so, yeah, I decided that I would hear these little snippets of people saying, this game's all mental, all mental, all mental. But then I look around and I'm like, man, everybody is just out training with their rifle. Like, you guys are training on the 10%, 15% of the game that this sport's even about. And that didn't make any sense to me. And so I was like, I'm going to go work on my mental game. So, like, real early on, I just decided, like, I'm going to go get that figured out first. And at least be chipping away at it, right? It's a learning progress. But
so what made you come to me?
Well, it was that really, like I said, it was that, when this guy's name is Steve Smith, he read the book, he read your book, and we had shot before he had read your book. Like, I was shooting lights out better than he was. He was in the middle or bottom of a 1-day match, and I was kind of in the top end of a 1-day match, which those are much smaller, easier to win matches. And just all of a sudden, I watched this guy that had, I didn't feel nearly the ability, and he just jumped, like, into the top 3. And I just was like, it was like there was something that happened and something that changed where I was like, whoa, like, it was noticeable. I was like, something is different about this guy. He's competing better than I am. I have more talent, but he is competing better than me. I noticed it instantly, and I was like, I've got to figure this out. So we talked about it, and he kind of kept it to himself for a little while. Then finally he talked to me about it, and I was like, okay, well, then I jumped, like, immediately. Like, all of my scores, everything just went, and I'd only implemented a fraction. The book is only a fraction of what you can learn just from talking to Lanny every month, because that's, you can get pretty granular on that phone call and get, Lanny will help you wrap your mind around it a lot better than just, the book itself. But
yeah, the book's a good start, though, huh?
Yeah, it's a good start. It gets the attention. The purpose with Winning in Mind is to get people aware that there's something that they can do about the mental game, and then hopefully they'll contact us and see about what's beyond with Winning in Mind. What's next, and there's a lot more that we can offer people.
Well, that book's getting around because your book, actually, there was a high school kid contacted our office and wanted to know the city where it was published, because they were doing a book report for high school on your book with Winning in Mind, and they needed that for their, to fulfill their project. They got the appendix of what book, where is it published, that kind of stuff. So, well, it was self-published. So, and so what's he doing this for? He goes, well, he's doing a book report. They had to do a book report on their favorite book and explain why. And Mom's like, this is the only book he's read cover to cover. So he's doing a book report on it. So I thought that was pretty cool. So you got a 15-year-old out there writing a book report about a month ago. So
cool.
There you go. Yeah. He's a golfer too. So.
Well, we certainly appreciate you taking time for out of your schedule to visit with us today. And a lot of people that don't know anything about precision rifle shooting that listen to this, it's a great sport, and it's available, and it's something that if this trips your trigger, I want you to consider this sport. It's a great sport. And so if they want to learn more about Precision Rifle Series, do they just go to the website, or how does that work?
Yep, you can go to precisionrifleseries.com. It's going to tell you all 40 match locations. You can look up where the rimfire matches are, where the regional matches. There's tons of regional matches scattered across the country for one-day matches that aren't. I don't want to say they're not as serious, but they're just. It's much. You're only committing one day. There's a regional series. There's. I don't even know how many regions there are. Probably 8 or 10 regions across the United States. There's about the international series where those are being held. All the rules are on there. Everything you need to know, lifetime standings, it's all on the precisionrifleseries.com. It's real easy. And one of the cool things about this sport is like every single competitor. I mean, I don't know a single competitor that isn't, that wouldn't give you, anything to help you get, going. Like they'll give you a place to stay. I mean, they'll give you a rifle, the ammo, whatever. This is the most helpful group of good people that I've ever ran into. So you can ask just about anything from anybody and get going, and you're going to be just fine. You can ask for advice. Like anybody's more than willing to help everybody. It's one of the best groups of people I've ever been around my entire life.
Sounds good.
That's cool. So if you enjoyed this, please share it with somebody, and we will see you next time.